Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, we are going to follow up on a video that I made a couple weeks ago talking about how my kids will be Poke millionaires. I'm as confident as I can be that my kids will be Poke millionaires, not because I'm investing in sealed Pokemon product for their future, but because they are working for the family business. We are investing the money into Roth IRAs on their behalf, and their earned income, $3,000 a year, 13, 14 years is what I used in this. $42,000 worth of inputs. The math is there. The history is there. S&P 500, all that stuff. Real returns, inflation adjusted. From $42,000 in contributions between the years of 5 and 18 years old, they will be worth, that account will be worth $1.8 million, nearly $1.8 million at age 67, full retirement age as of today. And some people asked, Dan, S&P 500, it sucks. Like, why not simulate this with Pokemon? What would happen with Pokemon? So people love our back testing. Pokemon has, ask the New York Times, Pokemon has outperformed the S&P 500 over certain durations and over its entire duration, if you take the averages and all that stuff. So here it is. Not kind of trying to show any individual narrative, because this channel is accused of being bearish and being accused of very optimistic on the traditional stuff and pessimistic on the Pokemon stuff when I'm investing in Pokemon at a very high level. Anyways, so what if you did it ending today? What if you did it ending today from 2012 to 2025? Assume the same, $250 a month, $3,000 a year. I broke that down. I wrote down $500 a box, but it's actually $500 a case. I will show you a little slice of a larger spreadsheet that I believe is the most thorough, complete price history tracker of every set in Pokemon's history for the last 26 years. You can see there's a lot of blanks, there's a lot of numbers filled out, but Dan, where did you get this information? Watch my video, another video, Booster Box Time Machine. It was something like that. I opened one of every box, every set in the Patreon, linked in the description below. I go deeper into this spreadsheet, all the stuff, all the price history. But anyways, I got these from certain websites that were selling these boxes at these years using the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine. So all the information is like real and good and true. Heritage Auctions, eBay, going way back, different websites, different forums. I compiled the data. So yeah, if you had done this, hindsight, back testing, all that good stuff, had you invested instead of in a Roth IRA, instead of having done that, you put $250 a month for your child, and you bought every 2 months, every other month you bought a case for 500. In every one of these sets, every set in history, you can see right here is the column for minimum price. I won't show the whole spreadsheet, but every set, and I know like Darkness Ablaze, I only grabbed one price point a year. Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage, they spent time under $100. Not only has every set been available under MSRP, every set's been available under $100 at one point or another. The first ones and the only ones that haven't, Journey Together, Destined Rivals. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But so I made a reasonable assumption, I think, of getting a case for $500. Some of them maybe you would have had to pay a little bit more, never got under 500. Some of them maybe you would have paid a little bit less too. If you had bought it at the right time, you could have got cases of Base Set Unlimited for $250. You could have got cases of Jungle for $180, $200. But I wasn't around then, nor were most people. That's why they were so cheap. But anyways, continuing on. You are buying your 6 cases a year. There are 54 sets across that time horizon. You are doing every set from Noble Victories to Destined Rivals. One thing kind of starts to fall apart a little bit because, like, well, Destined Rivals, you weren't getting that at $500 a case. But again, many of these you got a lot cheaper. So let's just go with it because it simplifies things a lot. So you bought 9 boxes. The way it works out, it's 1.5 cases of every set you got. 54 sets, $42,000 deployed. And you got 9 boxes of every set at the end of the day. Your 9 boxes of Noble Victories, all the black white sets, all the XY, all the Sun and Moon, everything. 9 boxes of every set to today. The average box price is $2,300. You've got some massive ones in there. Plasma Storm, Legendary Treasures, you got Flashfire, Phantom Forces, all those crazy ones that went bonkers. And your $42,000, you didn't have to wait until your child was, where's 1.17? You didn't have to wait until your child was 60 to get 61 to get $1.18 million. You had that when they were 18. If you had been doing that since 2012, what I replicated with the S&P 500 in my last my video a couple weeks ago, your child, you or your child, whether or not you let your child still have it, would have $1.17 million of booster boxes, having replicated the same little experiment that I did. Some caveats and disclaimers, not enough caveats and disclaimers to bring it down lower than what they would have had in the S&P 500, right? The S&P 500, you're talking a factor of 15 to 20 times more money. Take away your 15% eBay fees, rounding up, shipping, all that stuff. Take away all those layers that you add on to fees and storage and insurance over the time. Pokemon won, right? I'm not trying to get away from that, but like you do have to account for the fees. And one thing that I wanted to show too, right here, it's showing, Dan, why is it showing this as an end amount? So one thing that I put here, marginal tax rate. One way that like the Roth IRA wins, I mentioned in my video, but the kids, they are in the 0% tax bracket. They are in technically the 10% tax rate bracket, but they, and here's the tax brackets right here. They're technically in the 10% rate, but they get the standard deduction. So that brings them down to zero, right? That brings them down to zero. Everyone's first X amount of dollars, even Warren Buffett's, even Bill Gates, their first X amount of money that they make is tax-free. And kids making $3,000 a year, that's fully tax-free. So they're in the 0% tax rate. They're getting the full $42,000 in there. They're getting the full $1.17 million after all is said and done in 2025. I will tell you this. There are thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, maybe 1 million people or more who've been doing Roth IRAs for their kids from 2012 to today. I believe Roth IRAs have been a thing since the 90s, if I remember correctly. Not that I remember at that age, if I remember from the podcast and the content that I've consumed and blah, blah, blah. But, so it's only $1.17 million had you actually put the full $42,000 in there. But one way the Roth wins is that I pay my kids. They have, I would have had a higher marginal tax rate. This is federal only. So my federal tax rate might be something like, not to fully give away my information here, but many people watching are in every one of these brackets, right? Maybe not too many in the 37% bracket above $620,000, but it's pretty reasonable that there are people watching this video out there that fall in the 32%, 35% marginal tax rate. So again, Pokemon is still going to beat it, but, and that's federal only. Add on, I'm in New York State. If you're in California, if you're in one of the higher states, you might be at 30%, you might be at 40%. So it drastically takes away, whereas the Roth IRA isn't getting that haircut. Now take the additional haircut of paying the 28%. Now take this and multiply it by 0.72 because I believe the rate on collectibles is 28%, if my memory serves me. But yeah, it's still far in advance of what the S&P 500 is. I'm not trying to say that before somebody comments that, but it comes back down to earth. And there was a chance that it didn't do that too. Backtesting, all that stuff, Monday morning quarterbacking. We know what happened, so it's obvious. I promise you, in 2012, had you told somebody, like, had you told your neighbor, like, hey Bob, I'm gonna invest $250 a month, family business, Roth IRA, we're gonna build like a nest egg for our kids as they grow older. Had you told in 2012, I wasn't here in Pokemon. You watching, if you were here in Pokemon in 2012, let me know in the comments below. I don't really believe you. Maybe 2,000 people will watch this video. Maybe 2 people that watch this video will have been here since 2012. But Rusty, if you're watching, Nick, if you're watching, I don't know how many of my videos you watch. There are 2 people right there that have been here since 2012. So maybe 20 people. Maybe it's 1%. Maybe it's 20 people. But even though 20 people might have been there in 2012, 0 actualized this. 0 did this. One thing we do in Pokemon a lot is we do these theoreticals, back testing, what you could have had. Nobody did this. Like, there might be 2 to 20 humans on Earth who did this in any shape or form. And that's why they perform so great. That's why they perform so well. Well, Dan, that's 2012 to 2025. What about if you did it at the beginning? What about if you did it in 1999? You would have went through some rough times. I did show a little bit here. You would have went through some rough times. Those first boxes that you were buying, not to say you couldn't have gone through rough times, the dot-com crash, the flash crash in the 80s, the inflation and all that, the pandemic, a lot of times, 2008, There's a lot of times that the S&P has dropped 20, 30, 40%, if not more. But your base set boxes, not only did one thing that didn't happen, at least not anywhere near the same monumental extent, liquidity. Yes, 2008, S&P 500 dropped 40%, but you could have sold $1 billion worth of the S&P 500 at the bottom of the market. You shouldn't have. I hope you didn't, but like you could have. You probably could not have sold $1 million worth of Pokemon base set booster boxes at $40 a box. Today, Destined Rivals, $400 a box, $1 million worth. You probably could sell $1 million worth of Destined Rivals today at $400 a box, but you could not sell that in Jungle, in Base Set Unlimited, in Fossil Unlimited at 20, 30, 40 bucks a box. I promise you. But yeah, going back here, what did 1999 to 2012 look like? I looked at it. I don't have every piece of data here. You can see 2006 to 2010, very sparse, but like, again, I'm not going to scroll over and show the whole thing. But like 2011, 2012, 2013, I think I used kind of like an average between 2011 and 2013 to simulate 2012 because I had a lot of 2011, I had a lot of 2013, but I didn't have much 2012 at all. But anyways, estimated the average box, you would have had everything between base set and what was 2012 again? It was Noble Victories. So you would have had everything at this time in 2012 between base set and Noble Victories. Your average box was worth $210. You achieved a great, let's put this back to zero. You achieved a great 243% return on your average buy-in price to the boxes, right? Because we're doing $500 cases, that works out to like $80-something a box. And so you're happy, $102,000. But where does that put you with respect to what you would have done in the SP500? $64,000. $102,000 is a lot more than $64,000. But let's, what was your marginal rate? Was your marginal rate 25%? Feels pretty reasonable. Were you a household that was making, and again, these are not the exact rates that they were between 1999 and 2012. These are the 2025 rates. I don't know what they were back then. I guess I could have been better. I could have made a better video had I gone and got the actual rates by year and simulated it all much more thoroughly. But I think this napkin math works out well enough to run with it. So if you were in a household making between $50,000 and $100,000 a year, that was probably like the median household income in the 99 to 2012 range. So that feels fair. That feels reasonable. 22% federal, 3% state. You're not in New York, but you're not in Florida. You're not in one with 0%. You're not in one with the highest percent. So 25% feels reasonable. And so now you're starting with you're ending with $76,000. Well, that's coming back in. That's getting reeled in closer to where the S&P 500 would be expected to be. And let's multiply by 0.72 to get your 28% capital gains rate on your collectibles. Now it's lower. Now it's falling lower than. And how many people? A lot of people. I just made a joke early on one of Ernie's videos. I've been in the Pokemon hobby for 50 seconds. My time horizon investing is 50 years. What should I buy? Everyone comes in and they think they have everything figured out and they think they're going to diamond hands hold forever. I think it's a lot easier. Some people see it as a bug of Roth IRAs and investment accounts, those like, they see it as a bug that you aren't allowed to touch your money until a certain time frame, until a certain year, a certain age. That's a feature. That's a feature, I promise you. And Roth, I went into the nuance of like you can take money out. You can take money out without penalty for certain things if it is your contributions, not the gains. But anyways, Pokemon would have lost over that time frame when you add in fees, when you add in all that stuff. But the moral of this video, there's really no like overall moral of the video. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm not trying to, as I said in the video before, I'm not trying to influence anyone to do anything specifically. I don't want to make you buy or sell when you weren't going to buy or sell. The one thing I want to influence you to do is to think. There's layers, there's levels to all of this. We don't know what things are going to do. But like a lot of people will just back test, throw these charts, throw these numbers of things that they didn't achieve, of things that they didn't do. And I'm 35 today. I sadly was not investing in the S&P 500 at 9 years old. My kids are though. My kids are, and I am ensuring that they do that. I'm paying them into Roth IRAs, and that is not their choice. That is done by design. Some amount of money gets paid to them. They can go crazy, toy aisle, some percentage. They can go and they can spend how they see fit. When we go on vacation, they can play an extra couple carnival games after my my budget for them runs out. They can do whatever they want with it. a certain percentage. And my parents did make me save, or at least tried to influence me. I think it worked better with me than it did with my sibling. But yeah, I think a lot of people will post these theoretical things about XYZ. This is what happened. That is what happened. This is guaranteed to happen based on just theory, based on something that nobody did. And I can promise you that like functionally 0 people did this, but millions of people have done this and become millionaires slow, steady over time. It's not sexy. It's very boring. It's dry, but it works. It's proven. And a lot of people say like, well, Pokemon, highest grossing media franchise of all time, XYZ, the other thing. I am not as confident. So for Pokemon to continue doing what it's doing, the numbers just at some point become unreasonable, right? All the New York Times article, 3,400 whatever percentage it was over this time frame. If you extend that out multiple times, extend that out a couple generations, and I know we only live the one generation that we live, but it still matters. The math still matters. It's not sustainable. At some point, it's gonna cave. At some point, it's gonna break. And just because something is the highest grossing media franchise of all time does not just mean it's immune and guaranteed to be that forever. I don't know why I'm on light mode. Let me go back into dark mode. Here are the highest grossing media franchises of all time. Pokemon, 1996, 113 billion. When you start talking these 50-year time horizons that people claim to have, these 50-year time horizons that I actually have, I've been in the stock market for 15 years, and I will be in it for 50. It is a feature of some of my accounts that it is a requirement that I be in them for 50 years or however many years until I'm 59 and a half or 65 or 67, or depending on the account, depending on the circumstance. But like, Reserved Investments has talked about this. 20, 30 years ago, Star Wars was the highest grossing media franchise at one point, at one time. And being rebooted, and we're very nostalgic driven. These 2010s to 2020s, maybe 2030s, 40s, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of reboots to old classic franchises. And that's like the societal norm right now. That is like what is in vogue right now today in this world we live in. What the future will hold though, in 10, 20, 30 years, 50 years, nobody knows. Pokemon very well may be the #1 highest grossing media franchise of all time in 50 years. And maybe your booster boxes of Destined Rivals and Scarlet Violet and Noble Victories and Legendary Collection and base set, maybe they will outperform the S&P 500 over the next 50 years. But it is not a certainty by any stretch of the imagination, not nearly, especially to the extent that some people that have very little to no skin in the game, oftentimes, cosplay investors as I call them, that they often will let you believe they are. So things, I can't even think of 50 years ago because I didn't exist. I lived 30 years ago. 35 years ago, I was born. 30 years ago, the world was so different. Think about how fundamentally different. Think about how fundamental it has changed. The way that collectibles are, the amount of collectibles that have come and gone. It's crazy. It's crazy to have the level of confidence. And Dan, well, after seeing all this, are you going to set one box of every set back for your kids? Hindsight, I've been here since 2014. I would have done really well had I done it since Phantom Forces, but I didn't. And am I going to do it from here moving forward? I have the pallets. I'm forcing myself to hold things longer than I expected. I'm going to try. I'm going to try the best I can. I do have some individual cards, things that are kind of set back, earmarked for the kids, little collections that I'm starting up, putting together. But like, honestly, as crazy as this sounds, this part is not a feature. This part is not a bug. It's not really a feature either. It just is. But I've talked about trying to raise children that are enabled, not entitled. At some point it becomes, and if I were a multi-billionaire someday, I might have to grapple with this more. What do I do with my money when I pass? Do I leave it all? Do I leave it all to the kids and the grandkids and give them generational wealth and having to work for it versus not having to work for it? Trust fund, baby, silver spoon, all that stuff. It's like, I don't know, but I feel like there's some limit, there's some cap. I'm already pushing the edge of comfort. This is a lot more than I had. When I graduated high school, I had $10,000, $12,000 saved up that I personally saved from working with my dad for $3 an hour, $5 an hour, $7 an hour, $10 an hour. I think when I got done, I was making 12 or 15 bucks an hour working for my dad in like high school and college. And I'd saved up 10, 12 grand on top of spending on the things that I had to spend for. My parents subsidized a lot. I live with them. But this is a lot more than I was directly given at that age. And this being in a Roth IRA is just multiplicative. It is exponentially more if it's done the right thing with it. So at some point it becomes like, am I really going to set back a box of every set for them, and then potentially be giving them $1 million worth of collectibles when they turn 18? Or maybe it's just so much more uncertainty. I have 95+% confidence that these numbers or some semblance of these numbers will hit. I don't have 50% confidence that numbers anywhere like these will hit. If they do happen, I will participate in them to some extent, but I'm not really tying my kids' future on something so volatile, so risky. And it is risky. People like to say that it's not, but some of these things are international and Pan Man. I don't know what that is, but some of these things, like Barbie, still exists. My daughter is a fan of Barbies, the movie, all that stuff. But Barbie is not like what it was. It probably peaked 90s, 2000s. Things can fall out of favor. Things can really take a dive. Things can fall out of favor. Consumer demand is so fickle. And where will the pop culture world be in 2075? I have no clue. But will people be drinking Coca-Cola? Probably. Will people be eating McDonald's? Big Mac and Chew might be a $100,000 car by then. Will people be eating McDonald's? And the S&P 500 today. I'm going to pause quick. It wasn't as easy to find as I hoped it would be, but ChatGPT is estimating for me. It says 100 to 150 maybe of 25 years ago what the S&P 500 components were then compared to what they are today. So even like the biggest companies that we think of every day, like maybe less of them will be around in 50 years than I think. But one thing the S&P 500 does, it's kind of like self-cleansing. It's self-cleansing in that when a blockbuster happens, Blockbuster was probably in the S&P 500 at some point. When it fell to the 550, the 600 largest company in the world, or in the United States by market cap, it was dropped from the index. So you don't really capture the catapult from like the millionth largest company to the 500th largest company. But if and when something grows from the 500 to the first, or falls from the first to the 500th, you're capturing everywhere that something does in the top 500 companies. And it just, yeah, the odds that Pokemon ceases to exist or ceases to return the gains that it's been returning are just significantly higher, at least in my opinion, than something like the S&P 500, an index that monitors basically the productive combined output of humanity. Like, it is a multi-trillion-dollar thing. The liquidity, the considerations that I covered in the video, I think that covers everything that I had to say. Pretty ranty, rambly there at the end. But what am I actually doing? At the end of the day, the kids will be Pokemillionaires. It will be primarily in Roth IRAs. It will be if they're smart and if they don't touch them. I want to raise kids that are enabled, not entitled. I'm not setting back a case of every set. And one thing too that I meant to bring up and I forgot to bring up until now as the video's ending. But like, what do you do in a time like today? A lot of people say that boxes will never go under 100 again. A lot of people say that like this is going to be the new normal. Boxes are going to come out. Good sets are going to be $200, $300, $400 within a couple months. And if you don't have allocations, if you don't have that history, I guess I can just let my kids inherit my my Pokemon allocation, right? They inherit the business, the Pokemon allocation, and I keep getting the boxes for $100 a pop, and the boxes are able to be insta sold for 200, 250. I mean, my allocation is like generational wealth, and my allocation is tiny relative to a lot of people's. I don't think this stuff will sustain because of how silly that statement just was. But what do you do? I used as a rule of thumb $500 cases. Can you get $500 case of Mega Evolutions? Can you get a $500 case of Phantasmal Flames? No. A lot of the long-term potential gains are being pulled forward. They're being realized by the people that get it wholesale. They're being realized by Pokemon, the distributor, the people that are engaged in business in the space. If you're stuck in the future buying every box, I could go back, I could rerun the numbers. But what if you bought every box at $250 instead? What does that look like? We don't know. There's no data. That's my long rant and ramble. Definitely let me know if you made it to the end. Give me a give me a question mark in the comments, because I don't really know where I went at there trailing off at the end. But anyways, hopefully that makes some amount of sense. Hopefully that gives you some insight as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. If and when the Pokemon market goes absolutely bonkers, I will be participating in it. My kids are already benefiting from it in some fashion, in some more likely to succeed fashion, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe your kid will be a Poke billionaire. Mine will only be a Poke millionaire. Let me know if you are investing. Buy the case for your kids. I appreciate everyone watching as always. I will catch you all later.